Thank you very much for the invitation, first of all. Also for me, it's a great pleasure to see that the room is full of people that are going to listen to our story. A story that will be kind of two-sided story. You can see what I will try to describe is our activity, considering that I spend many seasons of my life in the design field. And you also listen to Silvia, which is much younger than me and much nicer than me, and she will also describe the same experience from a completely different point of view. But this is one of the aspects that PACO wants to bring on, which is, again, a design collaborative, which we want to merge the different point of view, different experience, different form of enthusiasm, exploring what design can really do to change our life. Okay, let's say we come from Milan, we are designers. I can say that I am a designer as well, more an explorer of the many fields of design. This is what happened when you think about Milan, design, Italy. It's product design, it's quality. There will be also the time probably in the question session to go through what is the heritage that form our vision on design. Actually, what we are talking about today is something completely different. We are not talking about product design specifically. We are talking about what is the evolution of design today. So actually, if we have to pick ourselves, what we are doing here, what we are here to do, it's something like this. It doesn't seem very design oriented, at least it's not fashion design, okay? But there is, for instance, a series of workshops that we are doing internally to this project, which is an European project which sees other universities involved and other people that are here present as well, that we have the time to speak about later. And it's just to include in the design process people, okay? So to implement method and tools that include in the design process, in the creative process, users, stakeholders, and all other people who are interested in the final outcomes that might vary from product to service to the whole system about product and service together. Actually, as far as we move from the product design, there will be thousands of topics that we could talk about. It's about the relations of design, between design and innovation. What is the sense of this, let's say, new view on innovation, which is the social innovation, many different kind of new business forms that can rise from the application of design also in ordinary context, okay? We will try to go through some of these concepts, and then again, there will be a question session, so whatever is interesting for you, you just take a note and you can make as many questions as you want, okay? This is more or less the real Milan we are living in. A city which is really transforming itself from a very industrial context into, for instance, the city in which the sharing is the capital of sharing in Milan, in Italy, okay? For instance, in the terms of mobility, is the city has the largest number of car sharing, bike sharing, scooter sharing, whatever sharing, okay? It's a sort of capital of organic production and service, okay? Of course, it's something that is taking place little by little in all Italy, okay? Milan was one of the cities who was most suffering the crisis at the end of the, let's say, the end of the industrial age into the digital one, together with other cities like Turin, is trying to figure out a new identity, okay? And this new identity is again linked with the design, okay? It's how to apply the heritage that we get from the classical Italian style and very focused center and focus based kind of design into a completely different context. we used to say that designer think out of the box, okay? So one of the things that for us is very important and is always at the base of any kind of initiative or project that we are doing is understanding what is the box. And this was also a sort of introspective work that we made. We definitely think that design is also a way of knowing ourselves better, okay? Design is one of the, let's say, dynamics that create cultures. And actually, when we design ourselves. Even thinking of a simple product, this product creates many times new gesture. New gesture means new culture, and new culture that asks us new product or new services. So actually, it's really designing ourselves when we design services and product. Understanding the box for us means to put the context in the center of our work. So, for instance, we all say that our work today is very important if we consider that we are really talking about a moment of very dynamic and fast change. Okay, all the human ages were about changes. Okay, there was never a period in which we were really stuck in a position and no progress. But in these days, we really can say that the change that we are living has two characteristics, first of all. The first one is very fast. Whatever is happening, considering the passage from the Industrial Revolution to the Digital Revolution, everything is happening much, much faster than before. Second is on a global scale. And if we want to consider these as a center of our work, we have to consider that the change we are living is a transition. We are living in a transition state. And the transition toward what? Actually, there were many things that were good from the Industrial Revolution, as well as many problems. The real point is to design this transition toward a sustainable world. When we are talking about sustainability, it's not just about environmental sustainability, but as you see from the images that we were showing in a while, it's a social, it's an ethical responsibility and sustainability. It's also an economical sustainability, because actually we are facing a world that since 2010, more than half of the population is living in the city. And in a condition that is not an African picture, this is South America, okay? But you can see something that is very visible also here, is the clash between a culture that is, I can plan everything, like the city you see at the right, and the spontaneous city, okay? This brings two different ways of dealing with the territory, dealing with culture, dealing with the needs of people, okay? Dealing with the possibility of giving the basic reply to needs and desire to people into completely different framework. As I was saying, most than half of the population live in city. So here you can see how the population is concentrated in cities. And even more, the famous description of the global village is even more valid today, that communication over internet or even continental speaking, the low-cost flights make possible for all of us to be in a city even if we are in the Arctics, as it happened to us. So you have a possibility to stay in touch with your family, whatever you are on the globe, almost. Just images that are saying population is increasing. We just think that many of the political ideas that we have, way of producing, especially in terms of theories, were born in a moment, let's say last century, when the world population, let's say at the beginning of the 19th century, was just 1 billion of persons. So in less than 200 years, even more than 200 years, we are now about 7. Okay, so this is again a dynamic which is very, very fast, influencing our environment. Of course, is a model that if we are not able to bridge to the future, so the alternatives are, or we crash because we are not sustainable, or we really bridge toward a sustainability way, a sustainable model. We are already feeling some sort of crisis of this model, no? So it's not just a financial crisis or economical crisis which is crossing Europe and as it was crossing the States, but it's really a model, a cultural model that has to be updated. For instance, if we are talking about jobs, okay, of course we live in a world in which we want some protection and everything, but let's consider that almost all the jobs that are repetitive, not creative, could be replaced by machine. Almost simply, creative work could be replaced by machine. Lifespan is increasing, so luckily we live longer than before. Okay, so how can we manage all these? More people on the earth, living longer, less job because they are taken by machine. So how can we think that the model that was thought for the industrial period, or when, let's say, also people were educated in school to be good employees, for all the lifespan working in a specific, and specifically in one, let's say, employee only, how can we think that this model is valid today? Okay, so again, let's imagine all the discrepancies and all the inequity and inequality that we are living today, still trying to solve them. And again, sustainability from the point of view of the environment. Okay, all this is just to say that we are living really in a moment in which we have to think how our own professional skills and our competencies can help us to really change the world in which we live. Of course, aside of all the problems that we live, we have also to acknowledge that we have a lot of benefit. Again, our lifespan was expanding, so we are living better, we are eating better. Many of us were really, let's say, attracted by the possibility of doing new shape, to explore new aesthetics, or to experiment new material. Thanks to the computers and to the 3D models and whatever. My personal interest was more how can I put this information, for instance, in architecture, to understand not only how the shape is better proportion, what is the best material to do this or that, but if I consider the space as the focus of my activity, and the space is the place in which human interaction happen. How can I use all the information that I can have? How can I interact with people to understand how can I design spaces which are exactly made for people to interact? So at a certain point, I experienced that once all this information came from other disciplines. All this information comes from other I don't know, institutions that were making social investigation and so on. In a nutshell, in a little bubble, I was able to do it immediately on my own by just speaking with people that were much more difficult to reach before. Okay, so again, apart from this sentence, it is kind of tricky because again, a child in Africa can have the same information of the US president, but actually he will use it very differently. Okay, the reality behind this sentence is that we have a huge amount of information that are available. Again, this is one of the advantages of the digital revolution. Together with, as you can experience in this space, we made a visit here and it was amazing the opportunity that you have by using this space, all the machine and new machine and technology that you can use to bring an idea into life. And then later, from real life to the market, which is another step to be considered. We have the technology which is supporting our creativity. So at the beginning it was like everybody was able to make pictures because our cell phone or digital camera make possible to make thousands of pictures. At the moment everybody became almost a professional photographer, okay? And I remember when I was making my analog picture and I take care of every single frame because it was so expensive to print it and so on. Now we can make thousands of pictures and thousands of videos, but the most interesting thing is that we have the technology which is supporting our creativity. So we are able to do some tricks that once were very difficult to do it, is now available for everybody, and our creative culture is changing. And a good step was the introduction of the 3D printers that is talking to us in terms of creativity, not just digital production, but also very tangible production. No? So we can imagine what this machine could bring to our life in the future. Probably very little of what we are imagining now, but it will change completely our way of producing and creating and so on. And it will change, this is the point, it will change also our way of designing, our way of being creative. If we are talking, again, generally speaking, one of the interesting inside of looking at the context in which we live is that we have to acknowledge that we live in a creative society for all the reasons we said before. Okay, there is an interesting research by the Copenhagen Institute of Future Study, which is the Creative Man, which is available on the internet for free. Actually, this institution is very good because every year it publishes a new research, and let's say after 2 years it make it public and available for free for the creative communities. And actually, one of the points for us is, okay, we have to acknowledge that we live in a creative society. We still are designer in a world in which everybody could say, I'm a designer, I can design, I can create, I can realize, I have the tools to have an idea and to bring it into life. This being creative is even, again, as I was saying before, is changing also our scale of values, our priorities, how we see the reality in which we live. Okay, let's imagine just to make, I just put some arrows that could be interesting to take into consideration. Between the industrial society and the creative society. How the organization are structured, okay? So in the industrial society, you need that every single piece of the machine, so every single employed is doing his own job. The organization is working if you have a task and you do it properly. So hierarchy is a necessity. Otherwise, it will be kind of anarchic organization, and in the end, the machine is not working. In the creative society, we see already the kind of organization that we need is completely different. It's much more about creating a network, and creating a network that allows all of us to give our own contribution to an idea. Again, acknowledge that we all have a creative ability. But again, it's also changing the way we consider the offices. You were talking about now you have an open space office instead of little cluster. Why? Again, because it's not important to see employees which has a different status according to the shape, dimension, material used in the office, but you have to put people in contact to each other. So open space are the space which enable this connection. So from one point of view, the workplace, if you have to be a wheel in the machine, it's totally based on ergonomy, for instance. So when you design a chair, this chair has to be designed in a way that the employees, the worker, is in the best condition to do his job. Actually, this is just one of the requirements you might require, for instance, in the case of offices today, because you have seen that many offices now have sofas or chairs that are not really following the idea of being ergonomics, but, for instance, enhancing people to talk to each other, to recreate domestic environment in which we can really live a connection between other people. Okay, this is just an example. Okay, so in the world in which everybody is design, what is the role of design? Okay, so for instance, can we can we think that the designer or the design is just a process that put together creative people in order to achieve better result? Can we think that the designer is just a sort of, let's say, constable that's of, as you say, robot or traffic light, okay, that is saying, okay, would you like this or that, a kind of waiter that is offering different options? Actually, we don't think that it's just a supervisor or a facilitator, the designer. It should have a different role, as well as design should have a different meaning. So again, if we come back to that idea of Milan, product-based Milan and so on, one of the results is that products are no more enough. Okay, so products themselves are just a part of something which is much, much bigger. Okay, this is an example of bike sharing, but just think about this bike sharing. Everybody knows bike sharing, isn't it? Okay, so it's just because I haven't seen many people going around by bicycle here, so that's why I'm asking. So, sorry?
We don't have it here yet.
Okay, perfect. So, bike sharing. You just may think, okay, let's take bike and put at disposition with people. It's not like that. If you want to do proper bike sharing, you have to think, you have to rethink the product. The product, if you see there, has no chain, much easier to maintain respect to a bicycle, larger wheels in order to avoid to get into this trail. In Milan, for instance, a heavier bike. You have to think of a service anyway that is allowing people to rent this bike. So you have to design the interface for people to get the bike, how they subscribe, what kind of payment they have to do, through what kind of payment they can get the bike. You have to redesign a piece of city, which is where you park the bike. Okay, so actually, this is what we call the product service system, which is actually where a lot of us meet in the University of Milan, in the Politecnico. It's a way of thinking of a product as a simple part of a much wider system, which is including communication, service, access to the market, new business model, okay, in order to, let's say, push the potential of design in offering innovation, okay? We will have not the time to go through how many kind of innovation we can talk about, but some of them could be tracing what I will say in the next 7 minutes. This is what we use to define as product service system. Product service system design is how can we create value, which this is the real difference in, let's say, the design-driven innovation. So it's not about creating new technology, but giving value to the technology, for instance. How can we create value? By designing the combination of tangible and intangible assets, okay? So it could be tangible, as we said, we are designing a piece of city which is designed to offer you a very tangible bicycle, okay? But there is also the intangible interaction between us, the bank, the service provider, and all the other stakeholders which are involved. It's still, again, a truck that is going around to, for the maintenance of the system and so on. And again, two kind of goals of these designing together tangible and intangible aspect is, one is from the user point of view, is to have a better experience. Better experience sometimes was very tricky in recent design history because it was better experience equal consumerism, okay? But actually better experience, I will explain with a slide, it could be really a different way of dealing with what we really need, what we really enjoy to have in our life. And again, it's a more sustainable approach to business. Business is part of the design design culture. This is another example that everybody knows, is not so recent, so we experienced already, everybody of us experienced this. It's a classical example of design-driven innovation. iPod, iTunes, okay? Let's just see this matrix, okay? That technology was already there. When the iPod came out, almost all of us already use an MP3 player, okay? So it's not really about digitalizing the music. The idea of the Apple was simply to revolutionize the world of music by offering, together with an MP3, the whole system around how we produce, consume, store, experience the music. So if we're going to look to their unique value as a brand, as a product, it was seamless music experience. What does it mean? It means that it changed completely our way of experience the music, in terms also to buy music. I remember, apart from the huge space my vinyl or my cassette and then my CD were occupying in my room, and all of these disappear in my pocket, okay? But also the way I used to go to a shop to select between records the one that I like it, and then probably there were just one good song in a whole record, okay? All these disappear. All these disappear in something that I can experience immediately from home, picking up the music that I like, okay? Store it in different ways, sharing with my friends. This is more or less, probably it's one of the best examples of what we can call design-driven innovation. So something that goes directly to the values and to the use, to change the use of something that was already in our experience, so listen to music. And not only this, is also something that was connected to how we can really have a digital experience that is not alternative to a tangible, real experience. Actually, we live in a world in which these two realities are reality. I remember that when the digital come into the place, there were, okay, there's the real and the digital. It's no more like that. We all live in a world in which the two things are in the same place. So, more or less, by talking about how is the evolution of design, is really passing from the product and space, so very tangible way of designing, into the integration of services together with a tangible product, considering systems, so considering also communication and all the other aspects that are also related to the business model, for instance, till arriving to a point, which is the one in which we can really then make the jump toward PACO, which is how is the potential of design to support the possibility of redesign policies. So if we are talking about interaction between people, involving people in the design process, how can design be able not only to work in terms of tangible and intangible things, as we saw in the case of the iPod, but also in promoting new kind of policies. It's very fast, so I can then pass the word to Silvia. This is an example. So citizens that are part of a service, that are part of a system that can really promote information exchange through a platform which is designed. In this case, it's a worldwide platform which is called Wheelmap. That is a simple project that is just pointing out all those places around the world which are accessible to people on wheelchairs, okay? And nobody is doing it. Nobody is doing it. It's simply the people that is giving their feedback about places and place it on the map. Again, as many other different kind of platforms that are collecting people, suggestion, so again, putting the creativity of people in common and suggesting new way of creating policies, in this case for the educational system in Reykjavik. So just the last two slides, what is the role of designer? This was the role of designer before the digital revolution. It was the capability not only to be creative, not only to invent, okay, but was the capability of understanding the context, so to see what is going on, okay, that's why we go through our idea of what is going on, the capability of intercepting some change, and so the possibility of framing this change, so to foresee a little bit in the future, and then the third one, which is one of the most important, the capability of telling people this change, so to include the people in the change. And last slide for me, then Silvia, you can talk, is, so if we have to see what is the specific capability of a designer today, is really to bring his professional skill that could be, again, product designer, why not? Okay, I'm not saying the product designers are more existing. Architects, why not? Okay, a craftsman, yes. But developing that part of horizontal of the so-called T-shaped professional, which is the design attitude that everybody calls now design thinking. So the capability of bridging our specific skill with other knowledge, with other discipline. So being able to talk with the other in the design process. So include our knowledge, other knowledge in our own design field. And this, talking about this topic, it was a sort of starting point of an experience that now brings us here. Okay, but Silvia, if you want to.
Hello. Okay, thank you, Fabrizio. Welcome to PACO. As Fabrizio said, as a human being, we have the need of going towards more sustainable world. When we say sustainable, it's not just environmental sustainable, but also social, ethical, and economical sustainable. And I think as a designer, I really think that I have to design and to guide towards a more sustainable world. So this transition towards a more sustainable world. And in this transition, as a designer, I don't want to be alone, but I would like to involve also other people, like crafters, makers, educators, whatever, citizens as well. And so, how can we rethink, redesign the way we live, the way we eat, the way we move, the way we learn? So, how can we redesign the way we live? And this was the question that was the starting point of our process. It was an 18 months process. So at the beginning, about 50 people, we start to discuss. We say brainstorming, but it was like an open discussion. We start to say, okay, what is the role of design of today? How can we use our skill to make this world better, a better place to live, and how can we how the collaboration can support us. So we just start with some we call aperitivo, so happy hours. We were meeting in the office or maybe in the bar in Milan. We start to speak about this like state of art of the thing. And after 6 months, we arrived to the first idea. The idea of a collaborative idea we call. So we're about 20 people. We were speaking about what is a collaborative, how does it work, and how we can work on this collaborative. So we start to also make the first project. So we were our client of ourselves, in order to test how a collaborative can work. And then we define a design collaborative. So we start to go out from our little group, found people, speak with people, ask if they want to be founders of this design collaborative. So let's understand what people think about it, and also we went to some institutions and organizations to speak about it, and obviously asked people to join our collaborative. And the 1st January 2014, we had our design collaborative. It's called PACO. Here a slide that can tell you what is a design collaborative. So for us, a design collaborative is an international network of professionals and also organization, why not? We believe in potential of design and education in fostering social innovation, sustainable behaviors, and new business opportunities. These are the keywords of our design collaborative. So everything starts and is based on this value. So design and education in order to have a social innovation and a more sustainable world. So in order to have a sustainable world, we need to change behaviors in people, and of course, finding new business opportunity. So a little bit about PACO. PACO is a flat and open organization, so there is no hierarchical structure. There is not a boss, we call it vertical. So everything is based on the relationship between the individuals and the organization, of course. And we all have a common vision, that is the value that we said before, so design and education for a more sustainable world. And is a project-based organization. That means that everybody is free to take part in the project that they like. So sometimes there is an open call, and everybody say, yes, I want to join, or I don't want to join, and we always want to make team and mix skills and enthusiasm in the people. So we don't want just skill group, and we want just to mix maybe a more skilled person with some maybe students or new graduated that has a lot of enthusiasm and want to take part of the project. So we always say that we love what we do and we do what we love. So so this is our challenge, and this is what makes us empathize when we do our project. So we have a challenge. We try always to empathize in the problem, and we try to solve the problem like really close to the challenge. These are the 4 main areas in which we work. So let's see, the first one is co-design, co-creation, co-management, tooling, and formats. So we want to give our skills and our education to the communities and to the companies. And we want to use the techniques and the methods that we have learned to make participatory design and to collaborate with communities and companies. So this is one example, is diritti alla terra, that it means rights to the soil, to the ground. And this was a workshop that we took for 2 organizations. One is Amnesty International, that is an organization that is promoting human rights. And the other one is Alcenero, that is an Italian company that produces organic food. And they called us in order to organize and facilitate a workshop, in order to design together with them a new way of collaboration between the 2 organizations, especially because one organization, that is Amnesty, is fighting for human rights. So it's about rights for the farmer, for the people who works in the farm, and that sometimes also in Italy we miss the rights. So in this case we try to use our skill and our methodologies to make a participatory co-design workshop, and together with these 2 associations. But The same we want to do also with social policies development. So not only with companies, but also with the government, so the administration. We want to maybe redesign good administration practices, always together with the citizen. So institution, administration, and citizen. And maybe, why not, find new business opportunities and youth policies. This is an example, is different from whom. In Italy, as in South Africa, you know, we have a big issue linked with the immigration of other people from all other countries, Africa and Middle East. Because actually they are refugees. This was the link with the refugees people. That, I mean, as a country, we are really good in facing the emergency, but we are not really good on making policies in order to integrate these people in the society. So there is a big issue, and this association called us, that association that works with the government, called us in order to make a series of meeting in a school, some school, like secondary school, in order to sensibilize the students and to redesign together with them new policies in order to better integrate these refugees. And we want also to speak about party. That is why we are here in Cape Town now, because we are, as PACO, we are part of this big project called Party, together with CPUT, University of Lapland, University of Leeds, Incomindius, that is an association in Switzerland, SASI, it is South African Sun Institute, and Politecnico of Namibia, and of course European Union, because this is a European project. As Party, that is participatory development with the youth, we are trying to develop in these 4 years' time new tools and methods in order to give to youth, especially Sun youth, but now we are also focusing on other group of youth, the more self-esteem and to make them think about their future and to think and design their own future. And this was a workshop that we had yesterday in Grabo with in a center, educational center, and we asked them to think themselves in 5 years' time. We gave just to them some props, and they completely get in the character, and they were pretending to be in 5 years' time. So, and these tools is really useful because they really were involved, and they thought about how can I achieve my dream in 5 years' time? Which is my dream, and how can I achieve it? So we're gonna come in South Africa and Namibia often in these 4 years to do other workshops and to test different methods. Another area is the design for behavioral change. We said it is important changing the behavior in the people in order to arrive to a better world. So we often use the storytelling as a tool and the narrative to support our action. And this is Happy Veggie. It is a game that we designed. It's a 3 weeks game that we designed for the elementary school. It's based on the idea that children now, they don't eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. They prefer eat fried stuff, carbs, but not fruit and vegetables. But we know how it's important for a good food education, fruit and vegetables. So the game is based on a superhero that he called Ranyo Man. Is a kind of Spider-Man. And The idea is that eating fruit and veg gives superpower to this superhero. So every type of fruit and vegetables give different superpower, and the idea is that in this game the kids were more involved eating fruit and vegetable because they really wanted to give this superpower in order to fight some monster like Gusty Rusty, that is the Coke and sweet drink monster. Yeah, obviously the power of the superhero were linked to the vitamins. So if you eat more blueberry, that is really good for, or carrots that are really good for the sight, your superpower will be the super sight. So this was the idea of the game that was really working, because at the end the teachers and the mother said, why now my kids wants always to eat tomatoes, and so actually the kids was asking the mother to buy more tomatoes because he had to eat tomatoes. So this was a good result. Then the design for innovative educational methodologies. So we want to change behavior, but it's really important also to approach to a new educational method, and the educational method, of course, that will support this change. And we focus mainly on the elementary school, but also on teenager. We designed the design school for children. The design school for children is not a physical space, but is a container of a lot of initiative, like one day workshop, or one intensive lab, 1 week intensive lab, or maybe just school programs. So it's a series of initiatives that we do with kids and teenagers, and mainly all the time that we do or a lab or a workshop, the aim is to make them redesign the society, redesign what their life. So this is mainly all the PACO members. Okay, big focus in Milan, but we see also a little dot in Cape Town, because Andrea is our PACO member. So we have one member in Africa that is in Cape Town, and these are some smiley faces of our PACOers. We call PACOers our PACO member. And thank you, this is us.